This happened about 3 years ago while going through an airport in the US. I walked through the metal detector, something must have beeped, and they needed to pat me down. After a thorough pat down, I put my shoes on and started to walk over to grab my bag. At agent stops me and says, "You've been randomly selected. Please step into the body scanner." I was polite, but said that I really didn't want to get into the body scanner and asked if there was another way. The agent said that I could get a pat down. I said, "Well, I just got a pat down." So they angrily told me to pick an option. So I took 2 steps backwards to the woman who had patted me down 30 seconds ago and spread M again. While she was patting me down, I asked her if she found anything new. She stared daggers at me but let me go. I'm mixed race, white and Middle Eastern, and I have a Middle Eastern name. That said, I'm pretty much just your run-of-the-mill Canadian. I drink beer, wear flannel, and have been told I have a pretty thick Canadian accent. Some people can't see past the name and treat me like a pock, usually for the worst, so I've developed a thick skin. I was in a multiple day board meeting and volunteered to make the mid-morning coffee run for everyone. One of the senior board members requested chai, tea with milk, and when I asked how they wanted it, said, "You're brown, you know how to do it." I let the comment slide and headed down to the coffee shop. Problem was, I legitimately did not know what "you're brown, you know how to do it" meant. My dad always liked his mint tea with a bit of honey in it rather than sugar, so I had an idea. I ordered the board member a large chai and then proceeded to pour out about 13 of it. I then took the squeezed bottle of honey at the end of the coffee bar and filled up the 13 road of the cup that I had poured out. It was less a drink and more of a slurry when I tried to stir in the honey, and it goes without saying it was sweet to the point of being inedible. I brought everyone their drinks and handed the chai slurry to the board member. The weight of the cup threw her off, and she hesitantly took a sip before recoiling in revulsion. I had already taken my seat by this point and was watching intently. She looked at me with a mix of anger, disgust, confusion on her face and said, "Neon confection. What the F is this? How much honey is in here?" With barely concealed glee, I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Oh, that's how brown people like it." She said nothing. I was not asked to make a coffee run again. Sorry for formatting, I really don't know what that means. So I'm now the owner of a landscaping business that my father started. He retired last year. He still checks in and helps a lot on the business end of things until I get my footing. We work in a city in South Florida, and about 95% of our customers are above the age of 60. My dad has 3 clients that we charge at a very low rate because they've used him since the start of the business. 2 out of the 3 are great. They understand that they're being charged a low rate and love us for it. But we have one lady that is very hard to deal with. My dad refuses to let go of her contract without a legitimate reason. That's just who my dad is. She has 2 daughters and they both own homes with their husbands. We get a call from this lady asking us to take on her daughters. I told her if she would like to give them our number, one can talk with them and get it figured out. I was going this as a favor to my dad really, because adding the 2 extra properties right now stretches us pretty thin, and I'll probably have to help out as well as my cousin who basically manages the cruise. Anyone will tell you expanding with a landscaping company is not as easy as it seems, and it's bordering along the impossible without proper planning. So one of the 2 daughters call in and give me their details, and I told them I could come out and meet them and give them an estimate as soon as possible. That was met with a few seconds of silence and followed by, "Daughter, my mom had told me about the rate she paid, and we were under the assumption that we'd be paying those same rates." Me, "Unfortunately we won't be able to do that, mom. We give her a special discount for being with us for so long." Daughter, "Mom is my mom and I'm sure she won't be happy to hear about this." Me, "Okie dokie." Click. And after yelling click, she hung up the phone. Not seriously, just a joke. So I don't think anything of it. Tell my pops what happened. We had a laugh about it and how entitled the people where we live are. Late that night I get the call from the crazy lady. Me, "Hello. Let me explain something to you. We have a way of doing things in this town and you just broke all one. The customer is always right. You told me you would take on my daughters and I expect you to do just that. Me, I told your daughters I could take them on, but not at the same rate. I never said I would be charging the same rate. Huh, yes you absolutely did, and I expect you to hold to your word like your father would. He would be so disappointed in you right now. I'm guessing she didn't know my dad still took part in the business, because he avoids her at all costs. Me, okay mom, I'll see what I can do. Huh, you better. This is just not how you do business. Me, okay. I went to my dad and told him about it. He told me to end her contract. I told him I had a better idea, and he agreed to it. Now I say contract, but it's just a monthly billing for her contract, due to it being so low. So I call her back the next day. Hello. Me. Hello there Mrs. Insert old hag's name. It's me ex your landscaping company calling you back. I hope you have some good news, because I still feel slighted. Me. Oh I have some news, we will be giving your daughters the same rate as you insisted. Perfect. When can I tell them you'll be over? Me. Well get to that, but we have to discuss your new rates first. What new rates? I didn't agree to new rates. Me. Oh well you requested to pay the same amount as your daughters, so we've taken away the special discount we've given you, and your new rate will be $800 a month. That will start in 2 months from now. What came after was incoherent screaming, and her hanging up. She called back the next day, but refused to talk with me. She tried talking with my cousin, but he referred her to me. She tried getting a hold of my dad, but he shut off his work cell long ago. She eventually calls back and tried to negotiate with me, but I told her it was all at her request and too late to go back on it. She dropped us the next month. She had been a thorn in my dad's side for so long. He was relieved when I told him about the call. He didn't want me to have the extra stress of dealing with her anyway. Virtually all restrooms in downtown Denver require a purchase to use the bathroom. Not a big deal to me, and I have no problem abiding by that rule. Yesterday I took the wife and kids downtown to shop around and eat dinner. We stopped in a little store where my wife bought a purse for just under $200. We left and about 30 minutes later my daughter needed to use the restroom. We happened to be close to the same store, so we went into there to the same employee, who rang us up to ask to use the restroom. She said we'd have to make a purchase. I had my receipt and showed I did make a purchase. She was the one who rang us up. She argued that we'd have to make a purchase again now to be considered customers to use the restroom. My daughter was struggling, so I grabbed her chapstick off the counter and bought that, while the employee gave me attitude like she just pulled one over on me. She gave me the passcode, and my wife handed me her new purse and went to the restroom with our daughter. The moment she closed the door I turned back to the cashier and demanded a refund on both the chapstick and the purse. She argued that I couldn't do that, but I pointed to her sign saying there is a 7-day return policy, no questions asked. Took a picture of it with my phone and asked if she wanted to process the refund, or I'll just have Visa do a chargeback and get my money that way. She silently processed the returns, just as my girls returned. She tried to say something to my wife about me returning the purse, and my wife replied after her attitude, she didn't want it anymore anyways. This happened to me quite recently, and I thought it belonged here. For context, I'm currently in second year university, studying to be a vet. I study in my home country, Bulgaria, but I'm studying in English as I spent most of my life in the UK. Because of that, the professors all teach in English though some of them don't speak it that well. Additionally, I'm a very slow writer, but a very fast typer. The main cast includes me and the professor, P. It was a second lesson and P demanded we write down all the slides word for word, since she would want the pages back later as our homework for proof that we had done some sort of studying. I was sitting there just taking pictures of the slides, since I knew I type slow and didn't want to be the guy who says wait, I'm not done yet to make the whole class wait. About 3 slides in, P comes up to me and starts berating me. The conversation was in Bulgarian, so it's a little paraphrased. P, why aren't you writing? You need to submit these if you want to pass this unit. Me, I'm taking pictures. I'll write them up when I get home. P, sure you will. You better start writing now before I kick you out. Me, I write really slow. I don't want to slow down the class. P. Bullcrap. You just want to get out of doing any work. One more word and you can just take your things and leave. Me. Fine then. After that I started writing. The PowerPoint was about 60 full slides and our usual lesson time is 2 hours. 3 to 5. Every time she switched the slide, I was only about halfway through it, so I politely asked, would you go back, so I can finish writing? She moaned the first few times, and eventually got so annoyed that she actually came to check my writing, and indeed saw that I was only about halfway through. After she came to check, she kept an eye on me to see if I'm writing slowly on purpose, or if I'm indeed slow, and saw I was giving it my all. Once the lesson was done and everyone walked out, she came to me and said you can take pictures, but I better see them written up at the end of the semester or I will fail you. I just said no problems, and ran to catch up to my classmates. Another short but sweet, classic timesheet story. I'm an analyst in a very specific field, working off submissions from various clients, meaning my workload can fluctuate between a few weeks of minimal work and a few months of having 3 times the workload one person can reasonably accomplish in a day. We work relatively independently, with our boss assigning us various clients and occasionally pulling us off our desks to work on his projects. My boss also has selective workload blindness, wherein he mysteriously forgets about all your existing clients as soon as he needs you to do his project work, which contributes to the bad work weeks being very bad. Consequentially, sometimes I work 40 hours a week, sometimes I work 50 plus. Our boss' answer to our insane workload is to suggest we sometimes come in an hour early or maybe stay an hour extra, or work through lunch. So, for a few weeks I did. After a week or two of submitting my accurate timesheets, where I came in early, took no lunch, and stayed as long as I could after normal working hours, he came into my office and angrily told me that I needed to keep it under 43 hours a week because anything over that requires special approval from his boss, and he didn't think my current workload justified those hours. In other words, he had to explain to his boss why our department is working 50-hour work weeks just to stay on top of everything. So, I started coming into work exactly on time, taking my time through a luxurious hour lunch break, and leaving promptly at 6 PM. During that time he also pulled me into several projects of his, on top of my other clients. Every night when I let him know I was leaving, he would look at me with disbelief and remind me of all the outstanding work left on his projects. I cheerfully told him I was approaching my overtime limit and would be happy to continue working on it the next day. After a few weeks of angry client emails, he quietly told me not to worry about my overtime approvals and to just get the work done. I can't wait to quit this hellscape of a job. This is a fairly short one, not sure if it belongs here or not. If it doesn't, just tell me. So once in my younger days, when I worked a conventional job, I was making food at a lovely place called Quebec Tango, QT. It was nearing the end of my shift, but as what typically happens when you're working in the kitchen, you get an order right after you have cleaned down all your equipment and stocked everything. In comes a delightful lady named Karen. Karen ordered a very simple order, a pretzel with cheese dip. No problem. I quickly make the order as it is a simple one and hand it to her with a smile and tell her to have a good night. End of story. Right? Wrong? Karen opened the box and clearly was just baffled by what she sees. She tells me the pretzel is all wrong and how I ruined night. I ask her what was wrong with it and she doesn't tell me. I offer to make her a new one and she accepts. I make a new one completely normal just like her order says and hand her a coupon for a free ice cream for her next visit. All is well. Nope. This time she screams at me and pulls a typical Karen and asks for my manager. I said sure and went to get her. Karen is now yelling at the manager, and when she finally tells us what's wrong with the pretzel, she said the salt grains are too big. You will remake this pretzel correctly. That's right, Karen got mad because the salt grain size was too large for her liking. My manager smiles and says she'll well make you a new one. So we make the new one and my manager crushed up the salt and put it on there and handed it to her. That's when Karen complained that they were too small. At this point we have clearly figured out she wants free food and to complain. So we stop giving her what she wants, and when she goes to pay she's charged for all 3 pretzels. She's mad about this, thinking we were going to give her the pretzels for free, but even though we typically only charge you for a remade one, a crafty attitude can get you things you don't want. Thank you for watching. Slap that like button and comment your opinion on these stories below. I'm waiting. Write that comment. Seriously. Have you written it yet? If you don't comment, you make a bunny cry somewhere. You're not that kind of person. I know. Anyways, peace out and catch you tomorrow.